If you wouldn't mind, in French, could you say be happy, never content?
Ok. Soyez heureux et non pas. What's content?
Throw on the spot. Just can't get the staff.
I guess I don't know when I actually decided I wanted to become an artist. Since I moved to London a few years ago, I knew I wanted to be an illustrator. And then the more I worked and the more other artists and illustrators I met, I realized that actually there was something really interesting into going into the route of doing exhibitions, working on personal series, working on different products that I could make by myself. And so in the last couple of years, I've been trying to go more, to shift a bit towards more of the artist route and see what I can do with my personal work.
We as a company, Woodbury House, are going to be working together in the new year. Want to talk about the ideas, the project, kind of how you're feeling about it, and just basically a general conversation around that sort of topic.
Cool.
Hi guys, welcome back to Stephen Sulley Study. I'm here with Mimboso capturing the footage, and I'm at Woodbury House with my next guest, Marylou. Thank you very much for coming on my podcast.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. So part of my podcast and part of my study is to find out why certain people have pursued the career they're pursuing, basically.
Right.
This is a bit of a double-edged sword because one, I want to talk about like your journey and your mindset and any kind of challenges that you've gone through and how to basically inspire the audience who are going to be listening to this. But then on the other side, we as a company, Woodbury House, are going to be working together in the new year. So want to talk about the ideas, the project, kind of how you're feeling about it, and just basically a general conversation around that sort of topic.
Cool.
So you're an artist.
Yes.
I wouldn't normally ask this, and forgive me, but you're quite young.
Right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. So like, how did you know at a young age? What? Because sometimes when I speak to artists, they're older, and it's taken many years for them to decide they're going to become an artist. But you're young.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't know when I actually decided I wanted to become an artist. I was really, since I moved to London a few years ago, I knew I wanted to be an illustrator. And then the more I worked and the more other artists and illustrators I met, I realized that actually there was something really interesting into going into the route of doing exhibitions, working on personal series, working on different products that I could make by myself. And so, I guess in the last couple of years, I've been trying to go more, to shift a bit towards more of the artist route and see what I can do with my personal work.
Okay.
So, that's how I've arrived here.
So just the natural thing is you've got an accent. I know we've covered this already, but where are you from?
So I'm French. I'm from, part of my family's from Paris and then south of France. But I moved to London when I was 4. And I stayed in London from when I was 4 until I was 14, and then moved back to France and then back to the UK. So I've been a bit of a split between London and Paris my whole life. But the accent is staying.
Cool. So I always say this to artists, entrepreneurs, salespeople, or athletes. I understand why you pursue these careers, but they're all very difficult. Yeah. And to break into the mainstream or to become commercial, kind of where the fame, the fortune is, it's very difficult. I know other crafts are difficult, and I know other journeys and other professions are difficult, but I've got to say, to be an artist is very difficult. So. Was it something that you found came quite natural to you, or you had to kind of really think about, you know what, I'm going to pursue this now?
I mean, I think I was lucky because I had both my parents who were really encouraging me from when I was quite young to really get into drawing, and they saw that I was really passionate about it, and they weren't the kind of parents who saw that as sort of a risk for their daughter to take to go into the art world. So they were really positive about it, and so it made the decision of going into art really easy for me, because I felt like actually I was going to be able to do something good, and I was going to, be able to work and earn money and everything. So it is hard. It's a hard industry, and there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of amazing artists out there. But I always try and, keep in mind the fact that everyone's struggling. everyone's having their doubts. No one's just going through the whole journey thinking that they're amazing all the time. And speaking to artists a lot as well helps you sometimes realize that it's okay, everyone has their own struggle.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a hard industry, but it's also an amazing one. So it's worth the struggle and the doubts sometimes.
And on the tone of that, so challenges, because part of the Stephen Sulley study is I like to talk to people that have made a success of themselves, but they've had it slightly hard, or they've come over challenges. Yeah. Any kind of major challenges that you face and you've had to get over?
Yeah, I think the biggest ones are just when something doesn't follow through, or when you reach out and you're not getting the response that you're expecting or you're wanting from the people you're contacting. That's always hard, because I feel like it's so personal. I feel very close to my work. So if I'm showing my work, or if I'm proposing something and I'm not getting the sort of positive response I'm looking for, it's kind of a personal, negative response to me. But again, I think you just need to stay focused and realize that you're not going to be to everyone's taste, and you should just continue to do what you love. And that's how I get over all of these little struggles.
That's good. So talking about your art specifically and your style, we're surrounded in Woodbury House, where's that tonight, and it's predominantly street artists in here, normally on canvas, but we have worked with a few artists. Funny enough, a guy whose show it is tonight, Scooney, sculpture. But predominantly when you think about art, you think of canvases and stuff like that, but you're slightly different. If you were to describe your style, what is it like?
So I would describe it as very colorful, very vibrant, bold and contrasted, and very woman orientated. And then the way I do my art is mainly digital, but then I love to collaborate with talented people who will bring my work sort of to life. So whether it's a really good printer who will do manual printing and will really add vibrancy and depth and glossiness to my work, or working with a 3D designer to then transform my illustration into a 3D object, and then a figurine, and then maybe a massive sculpture. So that's sort of how my work goes from digital to then becoming more of a piece of art.
Yeah. So how did you come up with your style? Because I know I interviewed Nathan Bowen Monday night. Yeah. And he said that he was the typical artist trying to make everything perfect for many years. And I think it was 2000 and I want to say 7, but I might have that wrong, or maybe even later, where he decided to do scribble kind of drawings. And he said, life isn't perfect, so therefore my paintings shouldn't be. And I quite like that.
Yeah,
so did you ever go through a transition of different styles?
Yeah, definitely. When I moved to London and I started working in an agency, I had a very different style when I started. It was very black and white, it was very thin lines, it was very creepy characters. And then when I realized
drawings,
it was it was
pencil.
just pen on paper, like very scribbled, kind of Tim Burton inspired style. But then when I realized I wanted to go freelance and I wanted to really launch myself as an illustrator, I realized that style didn't actually reflect my personality at all, and I was actually quite a happy, fun person that loved colors and quirkiness and playfulness. And so I realized that I had to just follow more of my character and put that into my work, and that's how I, with time ended up creating the style that I have now. Okay,
and leaning on the female aspect of it, why is that so important to you?
Again, I think it's not really something that I decided, but when I was working on my new style, I knew I had to do a lot more work to have a portfolio up, and very naturally I was just always drawing women and the female form and curvy, independent, empowered women. And I think there was just a bit of myself in all of my characters, and I just feel strongly about the fact that you should feel good about yourself and you should feel good in your body and be confident, and that kind of attitude will really help you get what you want in life. So it was sort of a natural thing that I'm just inspired by, and I just can't stop drawing it. So.
And would you say, if you were to give a bit of advice to any artists
who are starting,
it's really, really important to get inspired by something in order to create good, authentic work?
I think it's good to have to understand what kind of message you want to give through your work.
Like a narrative.
Yeah, a narrative, just a guideline of something that you're trying to do with your illustration, through your illustrations, and that really helps to have a base of what you do, and it helps your audience to understand as well what you're trying to say. I think it's a good way to create a style to start with.
But so how come you, because again, I'm going to pull you back to what I've kind of said earlier, but how come you didn't typically go like canvas, for example, and start painting?
Yeah.
Why the figurines? Like, is it because you can show off the curves of the women a bit more? And
yeah, I felt like there was going to be a good transition between 2D and 3D because my characters were so round and curvy and ready to pop. I felt like, well, this in 3D must work because they're already quite curvy to start with, even on a flat surface. And so when I started collaborating with a 3D designer and he started doing some renders, I was like, okay, yeah, this works really well, and it made me want to continue down that road a bit.
The woman figure, I know there's a couple of versions of it, but they're sort of like on her side, and there's like a white, like a bold white, or can you call it bold white? But like it's really like predominant, and then you got like a fluorescent pink almost.
Yeah.
What's the name of those, and do they come in different shapes and sizes, and how much are they if someone were to buy it? Yeah,
so they're called Daydream, and then just pink and white, and they're about 15 centimeter tall. They're made out of resin by a company in Ascot called Atom, and then they airbrush painted, and then they put a gloss finish to them. I've actually sold out the first batch, but I'm doing a second batch in January, February, and the white one is £385 and the pink one is £485.
And how are they going for you at the moment?
Yeah, really well. I'm very happily surprised to see that people are actually buying them. Yeah. Because it's the first time for me, it's the first experience, and I have no idea if people would be into the object. But it's really nice to see that it worked really nicely, and the response was really positive. It's
good.
Which is always good.
Have you got into any serious collectors or any like celebrities or anyone that is quite influential has collected your work?
So actually I started by doing a first two one-off figurines that were taller from another model for a first show I did called Nobody's Baby. And an illustrator that I absolutely love, who was one of the first illustrators I discovered in London, called Marylou Faure, bought the colored one, and that's the only reason I did the new figurines, and I went for another batch because I was like, okay, well, if she likes it, if she appreciates it, and I value her opinion as a really successful artist, then I was like, well, I should go for another one then.
It just makes sense to roll it out a bit more.
It was just like a good push to go for it.
And you also do screen prints?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't do it myself, but I work with a screen printer called Make Ready. They're really, really cool, and they can basically do anything. They're always saying when I come in that they can have like sparkles and diamond dust and whatever I feel, really. They can screen print on any kind of material. And they're really cool, and I like working with them because I feel like they really respect the artwork, and they really, really work and communicate with you to have the best results for your work.
That's good.
It's really cool, yeah.
So I know we're about to do a show in the next few months, which we're really excited about, and we'll come on to that in a minute. Have you done any other big shows or anything else around the world, or is it just, have you kept it quite small and niche?
I've kept it quite small. I did my first solo show in London and Paris. It was the same series that was exhibited in 2 different galleries. But that was my first and only one so far. Okay. So very excited to do. So
just put all done on your own?
Yeah, done on my own.
All your own investment?
Yeah. Cool. So it was a bit scary, but it was really nice. And again, I was very happy with the response and people coming by and being really encouraging. It's always nice to see people appreciate your work.
Yeah. So like I'm gonna take it off the slightly work for a second and talk about like the business side of things. Mm-hmm. I know you've done your first show. It seems like you're doing lots of stuff on your own, which is quite typical when someone goes into a career for the first time. Yeah. But how do you have like one hat which is this artist, another hat which is like your own accountant, another hat which is like planning and goals and strategizing, another hat which is like marketing and advertisement. How do you balance all that?
Yeah, it's not. I didn't actually realize that was going to happen when I went freelance. You know, I understood what I was getting into, but actually there are really loads of different aspects of my work now. I actually enjoy all of it. I like marketing my work. I like to be in touch with my clients and stuff like that. But now I have an agent in the UK and I have an agent in France, so they really help in terms of finding clients, taking care of the whole sort of management, and then I can focus on the creative aspect, because then it does take a lot off my plate. Yeah. Because it can take quite a lot of time.
Because I've seen there's someone who we know quite well who runs a clothing company, and not that we've had this conversation before, but sometimes I get the feeling where he's doing so much and he's being this entrepreneur and he's, it's his baby, and he's really wants to take control, which I totally get, and he's passionate. Yeah. But sometimes when you're over passionate and you don't let go, it's quite hard for the ideas to flow because you're quite stiff.
Yeah, a bit stuck. Yeah.
What did you ever get that sometimes?
Yeah, I think sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming when there's different projects going on, and I have to sort of switch from one project to another, to a personal project, to an exhibition, and you're so I get really into the projects that I work into, so sometimes it's a bit hard to snap out of it and to just straight away switch to something else. So I try to make it that I'll prioritize working on a certain project for a week and then have a break and then work on something completely different, instead of in one day switching from one project to the other. And I feel like that helps with being more focused on each project and not getting stuck.
Yeah. And do you ever have like brainstorming sessions where you think, right, I'm going to come up with a new concept or something that's going to influence me, or a message I want to purport to the world? Is there something that like a strategy that you go through?
Yeah, definitely. I like to work by series, so especially for personal work. So if I know that I have a couple of exhibitions that are happening during that year, or that I'm doing a talk, or I'm doing something where I'd like to show some work in particular, then I'll sort of give myself a brief of a theme and then take it from there and sort of think of something that's going to be linked by the same ideas. And most of the time they're inspired by the title of a song or something that I'll have noticed. Cool. So yeah, it's good. It works pretty well.
As I mentioned to you off camera, I box. I've had a few fights, and I haven't fought for 6 years up until October that just went.
Oh, that must have been scary.
It was, because I was fighting a 25-year-old who was quite active, bigger than me, probably stronger than me, heavier than me. But I just thought to myself, I've got to get back in there, just to challenge myself. But how I made it a bit more, gave me a bit more purpose, is I put a charitable aspect to it, which is I was going to I raised money for my old boxing club, which is also a youth club. Okay. So I thought, if I keep myself accountable and say I have to do this to give the kids money for whatever they need it for, it's going to give me that drive. And to be honest, it really, really worked. Yeah. And I went out there and
did you win?
And I won, yeah. And I didn't really get hurt, which is cool. Yeah. Do you have anything like that, charities that you like work coincide with? Yeah,
definitely. I work with Women's Aid. I give 10% of my profit from my shop to Women's Aid.
Do you? What, online shop?
Online shop, yeah. And I love to get involved in projects that are supporting charities or non-profit organization. I find it very, very interesting, and I also find that it's a nice way to use your work. And since some people are seeing my work and they're following me and they're sort of paying attention to what I'm saying, I feel like there's a bit of a responsibility to then focus some of my work to giving a positive message or encouraging charities or any sort of organization that are trying to do something positive. Yeah. So it's something I feel quite strongly about.
Yeah, that's good. Really good. I know what I'm about to say now is sometimes a little bit delicate with people in art or artists, but there's a couple of aspects to art. There's people that collect art, There's people that just use it as a decoration or to, put in their home or their office. But then you've got people that trade art. And that's what we notice, like the investment side.
Yeah.
I know it's quite early on in your career, but let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how do you visualize your market going?
I have no idea. Honestly, because I guess I noticed that a bit more when I went into producing the figurines, that people were interested in, the fact that it was an edition, that
is it exclusive?
That it's exclusive, and in a way, maybe they were actually buying it as a sort of investment. But I have to say, it's not something that I've thought of at all, and I have no idea what it's going to be like in 5 years' time. I'm hoping that it would have been a good investment if anyone bought one, but I guess we'll have to see.
If I were to say then, if you were to say in an ideal world, or as a goal or as a vision, if you were to say like, in 5 years or 10 years time, how would you ideally like your market to go?
Well, I mean, obviously I'd love for people to show more and more interest in the work that I do, and I'm just really into the idea of doing more shows and trying to produce different type of artwork and investing a bit more of my time into doing that. And then, I guess have the time and possibility to focus on that a bit more.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
then also have a giant figurine somewhere.
And the last question around this sort of conversation, if you were to walk into Phillips, Christie's, Sotheby's, and one day you're sitting there, and a Marylou figurine comes out, and they start the bidding, and he gets to 50, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500,000, and the hammer goes down at $1 million, how would that make you feel?
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I mean, fair enough. Like it will be, it's amazing for me because it gives value to my work, and it's amazing for the person who will have made investments early on and ended up with a good amount of money. So.
I like to ask the artists that, because some artists are really against, the whole money side of things. And I get that, it should be about the creativity and the passion. Yeah. And then there's other people, like the Jeff Koonses, the Damien Hirst, which clearly like to do stuff for the money as well. Yeah. And I just like to see the mixed responses, because I usually get some kind of like response out the artist. Yeah. And I just think if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
That's the thing. It doesn't really bother me if people then want to blow up the prices for some reason or another. Then it's sort of out of my control anyway. So it's kind of like it'd be just interesting to see.
Have you got any visions to do more stuff abroad? Like different you mentioned, like a family member lives in Hong Kong.
Yeah, my sister lives in Hong Kong,
and they got a little daughter.
Yeah, Naili.
Yeah, lovely.
I mean, obviously, I would love to have the opportunity to work abroad, to do some shows or collaborate with galleries in Hong Kong, in Japan, in New York. Like it'd be something that I would love to do as well, and make me travel a bit more. So
which artists inspire you?
So many. I love painters like Matisse, David Hockney, Picasso. I love illustrators like Marylou Faure, like Para. Photographers like Helmut Newton, like Man Ray. Love Man Ray. And then also just loads and loads of artists that I follow on Instagram, people whose work I see in the streets in London. I feel like there's just a huge amount of talented people that are really inspiring. And
have you got any like mentors? I know you got your agents, but have you got any mentors or any kind of teachers, or have you had a background where you've actually gone to like college where they've taught you a certain kind of style?
My school was a bit. It was good in some aspect, but it was also, in some ways, a little bit uninspiring, because I felt like some of the teachers who were teaching us weren't actually that passionate, or maybe, I don't know, weren't that into what they had done. And so for me, it was way more the artists that I met in London when I moved that were way more inspiring, because I felt like I could have a chat with them, and they had achieved so much, and I felt like their journey was way more interesting. So again, artists like Marylou Faure has done incredibly brilliantly with her work and how she set up her whole career. So she's a massive inspiration. But yeah, loads more as well.
Do you collect art yourself?
No, but it's something that I'd like to get into. I mean, I've bought a few figurines and some prints, but I'd like to get into more like edition pieces. So.
If you were given £100,000, and I said you had to go and only use this money to collect art, who would you collect?
That's hard. What can I buy for 100,000? I don't know the market.
Would you get one big piece or multiple small ones?
I think I would go for multiple ones and sort of see which ones
diversify.
Do well. Yeah, diversify. But
smart move.
Yeah, I'd have to think of who I would buy though.
So our project Woodbury House with yourself.
Yes.
We got to know each other through Katie Erie. Shout out to her. She came on my podcast as well and spoke about her story, which was fantastic.
Cool,
and I'm hoping to get another podcast with me, you, and her.
Yeah.
Talking about our, what's going to be happening and the project and the collection and stuff. So we're going to be doing an event at Nietzsche, which is a clothes store over in East London.
Yeah.
It's not too far away from where you live.
No, it's literally 15 minutes away. So
yes, cool
handy,
store. Yeah. So a bit more about that project then. I know you two have been speaking a bit more about it than us. So what kind of things can you reveal?
Well, so there's going to be a show with an event night, and we're basically going to use the space to showcase a new series that I've been working on called Daydream. And there's going to be, massive prints. There's going to be maybe murals and another set of figurines as well. Some of the Daydream figurines. And we're also talking about doing some silky pajamas and loads of other products. So it should be really, really fun.
That's good.
And I'm going to go check out the space tomorrow. So it's going to be good.
Well, the audience can definitely find the updates on that on Woodbury House Art or Woodbury House's website, or even my own. But where can people find you?
So I have an Instagram at Marylou Faure, and from that you can have access to my website as well. But most of my work is on Instagram. So
we're going to be updating, no doubt, on yours, mine, and whoever, and the companies, the progress.
Definitely.
Any bits of advice you would give to anyone getting into business for the first time, specifically art, or someone who wants to express themselves?
I think it's always hard at the beginning. It's not a myth. I think I knew from when I started working for myself that the first 2 years were going to be a little bit unstable. But I think the biggest thing to get over is doubts and I guess feeling a little bit like you're not doing exactly what you want. But as long as you're proud of what you're doing, proud of your work, I think that's the biggest thing and the most important thing to keep going, is to be happy with what you're producing, and then that will lead you to work on different projects and collaborate with people.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it can be quite easy, I guess, in fashion, in music, and in what you do with art, that you can find yourself sometimes doing art, music, or fashion that just suits an audience to get paid.
Yeah.
Because everyone needs to get paid, because otherwise you can't live.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, that might take you off of the truth behind what you're trying to do. Yeah. So how do you balance that?
At the beginning, I had to do work that I wasn't particularly loving, but I had to pay my bills, and I was starting off, and it was all very scary. But I was always making sure that what I was showing was only the things that I liked and the things that I wanted to work on. And also I found that with clients and with people that I work with, if you don't show them what you want to do, then they'll keep asking you to do stuff that you don't want to do. And so if you want to get into doing loads of women characters, just do women characters, and then people will hire you to do that. Or if you want to start doing murals, just like Kiliana said, do murals. Or if you want to start doing figurines, then collaborate with someone and find a way to make a figurine, and then people will see it and understand that that's what you're selling, and there'll be some people interested in. Yeah,
that's a good lesson, actually, because it's almost like whatever you want to get back from the world, you need to put out in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've noticed every time that you wanted to do something more of the figurines, for example, you would do more of that.
Yeah, completely. It's if I push something enough, then that's what I'll get contacted for. So it's hard, because sometimes you can get distracted, and sometimes you'll take a project because it's good money and things like that. But just remember to show what you actually want to be doing, because otherwise you'll keep doing the stuff that that you're presenting to your audience.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. I leave my podcast always with my catchphrase, which is be happy, never content.
Okay.
I've got my own
Very
reason.
nice.
I came up with the reason many years ago because I run sales companies. If I was to ask you to explain to the audience what be happy, never content means to you.
Well, I guess don't just settle for sort of not normal, but not average either, but kind of like, well, I guess content is a good way, but just always aspire to do more. And I don't know, I think to be truly happy, you need to how do you say excel yourself? No, that's not the...
Yeah.
And
push the boundaries.
Yeah, push the boundaries and try and make something more out of what you love. And I think that's a good way to find happiness and to be motivated as well.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
This podcast is coming out in I think 2 weeks after Christmas, literally day. So it'll be out on a Wednesday.
Great.
So everyone look forward to it. I normally round off the podcast by saying goodbye and be happy, never content. But if you wouldn't mind, in French, could you say be happy, never content?
Ok. Soyez heureux et non pas... what's content? I've been away from France too long.
Just can't get the staff.
Can we just leave it there?
We'll leave it there. Okay. Be happy, never content. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Cheers.
Cheers.
Sorry, I put it on you there.
Oh no, it's bad. It means